You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Well, welcome. This is Authors After Dark, and this is my guest, Christopher Stanfield. Stanfield writes on Instagram here. Um, just to go over a few of his many accolades, he has a blog, Musings from Nowhere. Highly recommend. I really loved the feminist writer post. He's also a member of Indies United, which is kind of a publishing house collective of indie authors, and you still get to retain control of your work, but it's just like having a team at your side that can give you advice about any aspect of the publishing process, which I think sounds really cool. And novels, which all came out this year,
Yes.
right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
The Girl in the Storm, which I'm currently reading right now, which is book one of the Season of Angels. There's also The Woman in Darkness, which came out March 10th.
Mhm.
She Hunts in the Shadows, which is a novella.
Yep.
The Song of Shattered Grace, which is a Season of Angels novella as well. And Elegy, which just came out June 30th, which is the final book in Season of Angels. And this crazy author hasn't stopped. He's already producing work for Kindle Vella, which is coming out later this month or next month.
August the 2nd.
August 2nd. Okay. Um, so first of all, I'm inspired by your work ethic and how much that you write and how much you published. It seems like you had a story and then you did kind of a quick release of all of your work, which I admire that model so much. I'm not a quick writer, so if I did that, you'd hear from me maybe in 5 years. So I'm envious of that. But I just wanted to kind of start out where we kind of connected on Instagram, which is that we're both inspired by a love of mythology. We both really love to do research to kind of back up the fantasy world that we bring to life through our words, and also that we love to geek out on that stuff because it's so cool, and everything's kind of a remix. So to utilize these old stories in a fresh and dynamic way is one of the joys of writing,
Yeah.
I think. And you began writing at 14. So I just want to hop right into the book that I'm currently reading, The Girl in the Storm. How long did it take you to write that?
That idea, I've been sort of writing on it for a while now, close to 8 years. I had the idea a long time ago. I maybe got 5 chapters done, and I just couldn't seem to figure out the story or find the motivation or the time
Mhm.
to do it. And so I started a class. I started school. I never finished going to college, so I enrolled at SNHU in the writing prep. And in one of the writing the classes, the project was to take 2 chapters, the opening two chapters of a book, and use that as your. And so I thought, well, I've got this story that I started that I didn't get anywhere, so I'm going to use that, see if maybe I can figure out what the issue was. So I used that first two as the opening, as my project for the class, and I was so inspired by the response I got from the teacher and the classmates that in that 8-week period of the class, I finished
Oh, wow.
the time frame.
That's amazing.
So by the time I got to
Um,
class, I got the first draft of that completed.
yeah. Um, and so I guess you didn't know then that it would become a series, this Season of Angels series.
I hadn't really at the time. I kind of thought maybe 2 books, and as I started really started to get into it, by the time I got to chapter 8 or chapter 9, I'm like, okay, I've got to pull back a minute and figure out what I want this story to be. So I kind of paused and did an outline for the rest of book 1, then book 2, and then book 3. And so I outlined myself all the way to the end. And that for me, the moment was what I needed to see the roadmap.
Yeah,
And of course,
absolutely.
yeah, things changed a lot by the time I actually got into it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that I needed that additional sort of outline just to know where I'm going to, to go to. So
That's so smart and something that I regret not doing. It sounds too that you're not just a plotter and you're not just a discovery writer. You're kind of something in between,
yes,
because The Girl in the Storm kind of started as this enigma. I think that it does for all of our first books. It's
yeah,
this idea, and then you're, knee deep in it, and you're like, wait, where's this going? And some people could trudge ahead. I did, but then I ended up rewriting like 50K
yeah.
of that first book, which ultimately made it better. But it was a time-consuming mistake. So that's very intuitive of you to kind of realize too. Oh wow, I've got so much more story. I need to outline this, because now I can't write a story without at least a skeleton,
Yeah.
just to kind of settle all the birds, um, so knowing that, you went ahead and wrote all of them and then got them all polished up and edited. From your rough draft, take me through the different stages your manuscript goes through before self-publishing. Do you have like a secret hack you want to share?
Well, I like to get the first draft, completed. And for this series, I wrote the first draft of all the books, all the main books first.
Oh,
And so that way I had it all done. And then while I'm doing the editing process, I have some people that I trust, some of the writer friends, that they kind of they'll read the books that I have in the right. An idea, is it working? Is the plot headed in the right direction? Does it make sense? And once I kind of get a sense there, if I'm heading in the right direction, then I move on to editing. And so while I'm getting it done, I'm working on the next one. And then sort of the whole period of publishing those 3 books was kind of that. It was sort of a trade-off. While I'm getting ready for one to publish, I'm editing the other. And then
you're constantly in a cycle. Yeah. That's so cool. And I think what I'm going to move on to now is that all came out this year.
Mm-hmm.
You did a really cool, for your first book, The Girl in the Storm. Correct me if I'm wrong. I remember you did a fundraiser at the beginning, because I don't think I'm giving too much away, in that our main character, Genevieve, survives a school shooting. And so you actually, your first book, you did a fundraiser for Project Sandy Hook?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome. Did you get a lot of response from that?
I did. And I made some contact with a woman who helps with the charity, sort of runs it, and she sent me a very nice card.
That's great.
For that, so that was really touching. But yeah. The book had already been out for a while, and I think at the time there was a school shooting in Tennessee, I think, in Tennessee. And I remember sitting there watching that thinking, it's so common when these things happen to feel powerful.
Mm-hmm.
What can I do about it? And so I thought, well, I've got a book here that sort of touches on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe by using the book, I have a platform, a way to get people talking about it, to get people thinking about this issue. That it's so easy to feel like there's nothing that we. And by that, I was able to raise some money to give to them, and so that was really the drive for me.
That's great. Yeah. That's great. And so right now what's your current project? Is it, I saw something about a character named Apple Rose. I've seen a cover called The Story of Esther.
Yeah. The Wilds of
The Wilds of Esther. Okay. So that is what's currently coming up down the pipe for you.
Yeah, I try to avoid working on 2 projects at the same time, but I'm in that strange spot right now where I'm just kind of experimenting. I'm just trying all different kinds of things. So the story with Apple Rose was for an anthology that's coming this fall. And the idea for it, because the anthology is it was started by someone who not stand the virgin trope that so often appears in some of the
Mhm.
and so I made a joke about, a cheerleader, sweet. She's the bubbly personality. She's completely innocent, very pure on the outside from what you see, but inside she's actually a killer. And and so that was sort of the joke, or this a virgin cheerleader who seems completely sweet, who in her spare time she goes and
Mhm.
that's the story. And so it's so I started that. I got the other idea for another story for the Vella series, and so I'm kind of trying to do those at. We'll see how that.
Yeah, yeah, and I love the idea of the character Apple Rose being such, um, her characteristics almost being inverse of the other. This innocence that actually, covers a much darker side. Um, yeah, I've not worked on two projects at the same time yet, but I feel like that's going to happen this year. It's inevitable, especially when um, there's that weird period after you've released a book and you're kind of trying to like, okay, just keep swimming, but oh, I make the words, so I have to write something. So I have a project. You know what I mean? It's kind of a unique situation where you have to make your own work, but it's also what's so amazing about writing.
Yeah.
Um, let's see here. So I have some just basic, really fun writer questions that I've kind of developed over a few interviews doing Authors After Dark. And this one I did customize it for us.
Mhm.
I wanted to ask you, what mythology are you studying right now, or what's one that's always inspired you if you're not studying one currently?
I don't know if there's one I'm studying at the moment. I sort with the story that I wrote, the series I wrote, I've always sort of had fascination with stories that deal with angels, of course, and with the demons. So that was really been a big inspiration for me, finding a way to tell a story within that. And
Mm-hmm.
a story within that as much as I can does not look like anything I've encountered before. It's sort of one of the driving things that I went for, and kind of one of the things that a lot of the research that I did was to find out what had been done so that I could know what I did not want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Was sort of the biggest part for me, which is
Yeah.
sort of into the figuring out what's already been done. Well, what does the mythology, the lore say about type of things? And okay, that's what I wanted to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
But that's really been the biggest of the drama with this story.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Do you feel like, and Season of Angels is done, right?
it
Elegy is the last book.
the series is done. The story
Okay.
not. Yeah,
Okay.
that
Okay. So we might. Sorry. Go ahead. I didn't want to interrupt.
yeah that series is done. The Vella series is coming out.
Mm-hmm.
The Wilds of Esther. It's set within
Mm-hmm.
it's
Oh, okay. Oh,
so
cool.
sort of the prelude to what comes down the pipe.
Kind of sets it all up.
I've
Yeah.
got another story which pretty much takes the ending of Elegy, takes you at least, I'm thinking at this point, probably the 9 to 10 years into the future. And so
Mm-hmm.
the Villa series is kind of to bridge the gap,
Mm-hmm.
getting
Okay.
everything in place for that new story.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of when I when the Vela idea came to me, with the first series, I had the main books, and then I had the novella that sort of took place in between. So
Mm-hmm.
I had a novella that took place between the first two books, and I had a novella that took place the last two books. And so
Ooh.
I thought, well, this is an opportunity to change my tactics a little bit. Instead of doing a novella, I'll do a story like this, which will serve the
Mm-hmm.
purpose that the novellas have.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
my with that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you also get a chance to get some depth and context to parts of the story that you may not be able to get in the novel itself. Because
Yeah.
we're always, I'm sure, deleting. I always delete big chunks of like, this is info dumping and doesn't really move the scene forward. But it's a cool fact. And, so that can really be something that you put into a side novel, to kind of delve deeper into that may not pertain to the full arc, of your trilogy and stuff. Or at least that's what I'm discovering. Um, uh, I ask here, are you tea, coffee, or both?
I tend to be kind of a little bit more of the coffee, than the tea. But yeah, on both. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you like to drink your coffee?
Changed. I used to put in sugar, and I kind of got away with my wife used to tease me about this because when she drinks coffee, she has to put the creamer in that I make coffee. I make it too dark or whatever. I've seen myself drink a lot more of the creamer than I used to. I don't know why. It made coffee one day, and put creamer in. I'm like, that's not that bad.
Yeah, yeah. I change from day to day, and it depends on if there's creamer available. But if there isn't, I definitely put like a little cinnamon in it. And that's like my favorite treat.
Yeah.
We already kind of went over this. I put plotter or discovery writer, and you're a little bit of both. Just like you do the tea and the coffee,
Yeah.
you like to discover, and you also like to do an outline, which I think the idea that you're either or is a bit of a misnomer. I think we're all a little bit of somewhere in between, some shade of gray. What are you in terms of your writing? Are you a morning writer, an evening writer, opportunist, whenever there's a spare moment?
I'm definitely more of an evening, but if I find the time, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
And lately, I've found myself because I've always had trouble to write if I'm not in the mood.
Mm-hmm.
With some of the novellas I wrote, there'd be times when I was not in the mood at all, but I thought, I'm just going to sit down and I'm going to try.
Mm-hmm.
And it was odd because, and those two times I did that, I wrote almost half the in that day.
Wow.
Because I just sat there and
Wow.
noon and I didn't have anything else to do the day, and I just decided I'm going to try and see what happens. And before I knew it, I'm 5 hours in the chair.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. That's amazing.
And writer. That's when I tend to do the bulk.
Is morning?
The night.
The night. Okay. Yeah. So do you have like a writing routine in terms of sitting down every night, or am I cutting into your writing time right now?
No. I kind of took today I took a break from the writing because I just got off finishing a week of school, so I'm kind of just like, eh.
That's right. You're in school as well. You're getting a BA in creative writing currently. How's it going? You're doing it online?
Yes, it's going pretty good. I think my class is in April. So
Mm-hmm.
I'll have my degree around April.
Oh, wow. Of 2022? Oh, my goodness. Well, you're well on your way. Yeah. You're going to get there. And then this is my final question is kind of what do you see for yourself as an author in the next 5 years? Do you have a plan? Because I know you, like many of us, have a day job.
Mm-hmm.
And do you see yourself retiring one day full time to write, or do you feel like you'll always kind of have your hands dabbling in different things?
It would be a nice idea, but I just can't do that.
Yeah.
Which is fine. My career has allowed me to do this, allowed me to sort of take that indie path.
Yeah.
So, and I work at a bank, so I don't work extraordinary hours, which
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't see that happening. The story that I've started with the first series, I'm going to be in this story for probably a long time to come.
Yeah.
I've got plans for sorry, I've got plans for like a series 2, a
Mm-hmm.
series 4. So I'm pretty much going to be in this the world I've made for a good long time. So
That's good though. You
yeah.
mean you put all that effort into it. It's nice to play around in that. And I feel like too when I'm writing in my book, I'm like, oh, that would be a good spin-off series too. And before you know it, you've got the outlines of 20 books in your head, and you wonder why you can't remember your name or what's going on. Um,
That's the funny thing is when I started this idea, I had no idea that I was going to be having this many ideas for this story. It was just going to be just those 3 books, and that was it. But
yeah,
ended up
I
being
mean, yeah, and I'm reading The Girl in the Storm, and your writing reminds me a little bit of mine. We both love our words, um, and it's really strong work, I think, for a first novel. I'm really enjoying it, um, and it's so interesting to see. I think we all put a little bit of ourselves in our books. I definitely did. My main character is a hairstylist,
yeah, cool.
which is what I've done for a career.
Mm-hmm.
And getting to interview all of my virtual friends, I kind of get to see like the man behind the curtain. You know what I mean? So it's so great to talk to you.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing that I was really interested in when you were talking about your releases is you were talking about um, either going around to different blogs or
Mm-hmm.
maybe being on different mailing lists
Mm-hmm.
on your release, and that kind of helped. Can you talk a little bit about that, and if someone, say I or any other indie, was interested in having a more successful release date, do you have any tips for us?
Yeah, I did a big sort of experiment with the release of the last book. I used the deal size, like e-reader, the News Today, which if
Mm-hmm.
it's on sale or free, you can get them to run a promo for just a 1 day and so I used it in the past, and I had some good results from that. So I decided, well, with the release of the last book, I'm going to go out and try to stack them on that same. I had
Yeah,
I think there were 8. I
yeah.
called, and I did this about a month ahead of time because you kind of have to. They're not like they'll pick you. There's not a
Mm-hmm.
have available space on that day, so it's always a good idea to do it early.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it about a month out. I booked 8 to run for the first the book. I put that on sale. The first book and the book too. I put both of them that were on sale. I did 8 promos, and by the end of that day, I sold about up to 200 copies of the first book.
That's amazing.
So if you have a book, if you have not just one book, but especially for a book that you have the series, it's always
Mm-hmm.
for the first book, because the
Mm-hmm.
hope is that if you get enough people to buy that first book, they'll buy
Yeah.
as they go.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of why I'm also doing novellas.
Mm-hmm.
My plan is very similar to yours. I'm taking the slow road.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm releasing a novella, Shadow Glass, for free, and then hopes of kind of gaining interest in book 2, Forgotten Queen series, which I will release and charge some cheddar cheese for. But then the spring, I kind of want to again release another novella for free
Mm-hmm.
that, as an artist, gets me to dabble in these side stories that I think are lovely and important, but I can't fit into my primary arc. Um, yeah, so I'm definitely doing something from your page and a little bit from something over there, but everything's a remix. I think too, as an entrepreneur, you kind of have to figure out what works for you,
Yeah.
which is why I was so interested in Indies United. that organization that you're a part of. How long have you been with Indies United?
Right since the beginning, before I published the first book. I think I
Oh,
probably can't remember exactly when but I want to say it was maybe September of the last year.
mm-hmm.
So I joined right around the time that I was getting decided. Right around the time I decided, okay, I to publish. I found,
Mm-hmm.
and then I signed on to them. So I
Oh,
kind
wow.
of I got my editor and I did that. So
So did they help you find an editor? Is that what you said? Sorry, I cut out right when you said that.
they can. I just got an
Okay.
editor just like on my own. Then they
Okay.
contacts and that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then you were also mentioning too when we were DMing the other day that Indies United, she goes to a lot of book festivals. Um, and I've not been to many. Can you talk to me a little bit about book festivals? Because you were talking about a few, like you were an old hat at them, and I've just never been, and I'm so curious.
So I haven't had a chance yet. I was hoping to, but of course with COVID and everything,
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
there was one that was going to be in the North Texas area, but they raised the prices on tents. So
Yeah, it's a bummer.
they were talking about it back and forth. It didn't make any sense, the prices that they were going to charge.
You'd
And
barely make a profit after you hopefully sold books.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
no. I'm hoping that, if the world starts to return back to normal at some point,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
it's going to be up at the Mississippi, the book
Yes.
at the end of August. But that's right the month I'm having a vacation, so
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
didn't time
Yeah.
out.
And vacation is also important. Indie authors and entrepreneurs rest and vacation and taking a break is so allowed and so important.
Oh yeah,
Um, I did that this weekend. I did a lot of restful nothing,
I,
which was great.
I needed that break.
Yeah.
Doing these books, especially the final book. I wrote the final book in a month
Oh,
exactly,
wow.
which required me not to sleep all that much because I would stay
Yeah.
at 2 o'clock and
I was like, how was that month?
yeah, that's kind of crazy. So I needed a break by the time I got that book out of the way.
Yeah.
Talking about just writing and the outline. The final book was one of the weird things where it was the book that I enjoyed the most to write.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it. It was also the
Yeah.
book that changed the most according to the outline, which is
Interesting.
yeah, because I remember that and I won't say anything for spoilers, but
Mm-hmm.
the character that was supposed to die in the first chapter, and if I go back, I still has that original person that died in that opening chapter. It's not how it happened in when I actually got down to write it. And then as I sat down to write it, I got close to the halfway mark, and I started because I had the Word doc pulled up, I had the outline pulled up, and the entire second half of the book, the order was all I not like the order of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much, I think entire that last book, the content was still the same.
Mm-hmm.
Also happened in the right chapters. I moved them all over that second half. That was a strange experience to do that because it had not happened to me. Have that from the outline.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. What do you like to write in? Do you write in Scrivener's or Word or on your phone? Do you dictate?
I do the Word. I could not. I could write on the phone because I typing on those keys, the virtual keys. So I would.
Yeah. Yeah. I do Scrivener's mainly because I can keep it really indexed and separate and keep all my little different birds separated and stuff like that.
I do. I think it might be.
Yeah.
I have about it. I've looked into it, but I just haven't gotten around to attempting it.
I would highly recommend it, and there's so many free, you can even do like a free YouTube tutorial on it. I will say it's one of those programs where I've used it for years, and I still think I only know about 15% of what it does. But you can do word count goals, you can do outlining, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Oh, wow.
It can do pretty much everything but cook burritos and write the damn thing for you. So I like that because I'm when I'm on Word, I just feel like I scroll forever and then I lose my train of thought. And so Scrivener's is nice because I can be like, that's the folder, that's chapter 2, and that's the scene where this happens. So that's my shameless plug for Scrivener's. They did not sponsor Authors After Dark. Well, is there anything you'd like to add? That is all of my notes and questions. Just to recap, you are a multi-book author for the Season of Angels series, Girl in the Storm, The Women in Darkness, Elegy, as well as 2 companion novellas, She Hunts in the Shadows and The Song of Shattered Grace. And you have a Kindle Vella coming out here August 2nd. And you are an amazing writer. Anything else?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. The Vella series, I'm excited for this because this is going to be an opportunity. There's a character that is introduced in one of the novellas. She in a shadow is the character, and she was a tremendous amount of fun to write. She's a demon. She curses quite a lot, and a delight to write. And so when I decided that I wanted to switch my sort of the tracks and start the Vella series, she was the first idea that came to mind. And so she was sort of, if I'm going to start a new series and sort of get introduce readers into what after Elegy, she felt like she was the perfect one to sort of be.
Yeah.
So if you can't handle a character versus you might not like the story.
Because
that was always the thing that my mom didn't appreciate was the language. And when she read my first book and she sent me some text like, do you really have to like talk like this? And I was thinking, oh God, when you get to the novella, oh gosh, because it was way worse in the novel. The Girl in the Storm, the rest of the books are tame compared to that.
Yeah. I was about to say The Girl in the Storm is really tame. I don't think I've come across any curse words.
But I knew that, and then I wrote it. Okay, so back up here. The Vella series, the first 8 episodes were a novella. Was my first plan. And so I turned those 8 chapters into the first 8 episodes of Vella. And I went in and I did a search to see how many times the F word appeared in it. It was over 108. So.
Not like you're trying or anything, but there's over.
Curious. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, so you followed. This is your official warning. There are a few F-bombs coming up in that. But also, cheers to you for being a voyager here. You using a really new app and putting your work out there. So, it takes courage to put your work out there and to do it on a new app. Cheers to you. I think that's awesome. I'm living vicariously through you, which is why I asked you so many questions the other day about that. Well, yeah, I think that pretty much concludes Author After Dark. Oh, one more thing. Congratulations to the other day when you walked into a local bookstore and saw your books on the shelves. And I just want to talk about that moment just before we leave here. That's the moment that we all dream of as authors, is walking in. Unbeknownst to you, right? You were just walking in and you saw all 3 from Season of Angels on the bookshelf, right?
Yeah, I had reached out to a bunch of locations in the local area. There's another town about an hour away that I had contacted. I contacted a few in other places like states, and I knew that there was a store that had purchased the books, but I didn't know which store. And so was walking in there. My wife we hadn't had a chance to go out of town for a while, so we said, let's go out. And so we went to this town, and we went in the bookstore, and I just was happening by the young adult section, and I thought, I know that a store has purchased my books. I don't know which one. I'm just gonna go look and see if I can find. So I went down to where my name would be, and right there was the book.
That's so awesome. Oh man, how surreal was that? Were you like pinching yourself and like fluttering the pages of the book to make sure it was real?
That was strange. My wife, she came over. Okay, let's take a picture. And so I held the books, and there was a guy off to the side who had a book, and he said, "Is that your book?" And I was like, "Yeah, that is."
Yes, yes, it is. That's awesome. Congratulations. That had to feel amazing. Well, it has been so wonderful catching up with you. And I look forward to seeing you around on Instagram. And I'm going to go see you in your book later.
Yeah.
Just because reading someone's book is so much just like sitting down and having a chat with them, I think. Just like this. So thanks so much for stopping by. It was great to talk to you. And this is another Authors After Dark. Bye, y'all.